Well, at least it's chained up.
So, Guardians, it appears we've hit that point, that final calm before the storm. The April update has hit, and I think I speak for most when I say that the game is in its best state ever. And as we wait semi-patiently for the reveal of our next helping of content, I thought I'd reminisce for a moment. Nostalgia up, if you will. As a predominant solo player for most of my Destiny career, I've spent an unhealthy amount of time in PvE outside of raids and inside of strikes, which are honestly one of my favorite aspects of the game. I like boss runs. I've always enjoyed bosses in any video game. Hell, one of my all-time favorite games is nothing but bosses. They're fun, they're exciting, and they're intimidating. But of course, they're memorable too. So I thought, why not count down to what I believe to be the best strikes Destiny has to offer since its release? I mean, we're up to 14 strikes now? That's a lot to pick from. Of course, some of them go right in the trash heap from the get-go, so my job's a little easier, but the 5 best? Ugh. Well, I mean, I think I got it. Released with the Dark Below DLC back in December of 2014, The Undying Mind was actually a pretty obscure strike for most, because its level had made it irrelevant pretty much from the get-go. The boss itself is actually one of the most frustrating bosses in the game, with a pretty significant barrier in the accuracy of Quigley with his trusty Shiloh Sharps. However, that's not why this strike is great. On your way through the beautiful Black Garden, you'll have a run-in with a horde of precursors. Not seen outside of the Vault of Glass prior, they pretty much steamroll your ass if you're caught unprepared. However, if you are prepared, you're about to have the time of your life. I'm talking supers for days. I know a lot of people don't much care even for this moment on the harder difficulties because, let's face it, the Minotaurs suck. But I never get tired of steamrolling all these enemies and watching orbs fly from my teammates just for me to zap them all again. Of course, this was a rare moment that would later be replicated many a time once The Taken King finally came out, but for what it's worth, I still find it to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Take him out.
So, I'm gonna be pretty honest. I didn't like this strike for a long time. The bosses themselves felt like a pain, and every random player I was ever matchmade with didn't know how to control smaller enemy population, no matter how many times it bit them in the ass. It was all just a bout of frustration rolled into one mission. But then, as I played it more and more recently, I realized how well designed and actually really fun this strike is when run properly. First of all, it's not very long until you're in the heat of the final battle itself. The tank section is pretty easy, and after that, just 2 rooms of enemies and bam, there you are. As for the bosses themselves, well, it's pretty frantic to fight them to say the least, but in a good way. You can never be caught standing still, which eliminates the stand there and pump all your sniper rounds into the boss strategy. You also can't focus entirely on the bosses themselves, or else you'll be swarmed in no time flat. It's actually a perfect combination of coordination, skill, and awareness, all beautifully married into one big happy family. Just like the Shield brothers themselves, except they're dead. Very, very dead. And ugly too. I mean, have you seen a Cabal's face?
The Nexus, it's opening.
What I once thought was a very mediocre mission had actually become quite a favorite of mine, the moment I had begun to analyze it like the critical bastard I am. The Nexus is at number 3 because it's fun. Okay, that's pretty stupid. Why is it fun? Well, I'll tell you. I absolutely love the setting of this strike, for starters. The design of Venus itself is my absolute favorite in the Destiny universe, and every battleground you come across along the way is simply awesome. The first room is relatively simple, which isn't much that can be said for most waves of enemies you encounter at any other point in the game. The sprint to the end is short and sweet, and I derive endless amounts of pleasure in blowing this group of Vex to smithereens. Then there's the fight itself. I'm going to reuse a term from the last entry on this list, and that's frantic, which this fight absolutely is. The constant ducking and weaving as well as the absolute lack of any real safe spots in the arena make for a hectic but overall memorable boss fight. Plus, it's really damn cool. The Vex are terrifyingly awesome, and outside of the vault itself, I think this strike in particular embodies just about everything about them that makes them so utterly interesting. Of course, if you're one of those saps who sits up at the top, refusing to put yourself in harm's way, I have no hang-ups about throwing my Titan body into your back at full speed, knocking you into the pit below. Please, don't be a sissy.
Great work.
Like everyone else in the Destiny community, I too find myself falling back on year one with rose-tinted glasses in various departments. I do, in fact, miss the old raids. I do miss a lot of the old weapons, but like any sensible individual, I do understand why changes need to be made, and why certain fashions must eventually fall out of style. Year 2 has been a significant improvement in many ways, but if there's one thing I have never been able to replicate, it was the feeling of beating this asshole for the first time. Sure, I know almost everyone can recall the first time they trounced Atheon or Crota, but my first real moment of wow came in this game's beta, where we all got to experience this strike for the first time. The first room was, for lack of a better phrase, a pain in the ass to be sure, but once you entered this arena with this thing waiting for you in the back, this thing... Okay, maybe it's not much now, but this was the first taste any of us got. This right here is what sold me on the game and why I'm still playing today. So you're probably scratching your head and thinking, this is it? This is what he put at number 2? The thing you can find on normal patrols and beat in a matter of seconds? Well, yes, actually. Stop judging me. In all seriousness, though, I still adore the presentation of this fight, the arena it's set up in, and the fact that once you beat it, you realize that isn't even all there is. Sepiks himself is almost just as cool, and he's a dick. I love it.
Well done.
Alakul, he is hunting you.
The top spot on this list wasn't ever even a question for me the moment I decided to make this video. I know what the best strike is in this game. We all do. And if for some reason you're thinking otherwise, your brain is wrong. Please tell it to stop. Realistically, the boss of this strike itself is absolutely one of my favorite moments Destiny has to offer any player to date. While working your way towards the end is a bit tedious, frustrating, and requires you not to play like an absolute monkey, once you make your descent, you realize stuff is about to get way too real. The fact that this fight takes place in utter darkness is just way too cool of an idea. The strike is burned into my mind as a favorite for that alone. And yet, it's never too unforgiving. If anything, it's just pure fun. Alak-Hul is a freaking intimidating boss. He has a giant sword, and you're trapped in a hole with him. Innuendos aside, that's a pretty awesome setup for any boss when you really think about it. I love this strike. A lot.
Yes. May his dark soul go screaming into the pit between the stars.
Hey, thank you all so very much for watching this video. I know it was pretty darn short, but I hope to make a lot more of these top 5 videos in the future, and of course not just for Destiny, but all other sorts of games. I just wanted to kind of test the waters with this one. I've done top 10s in the past. They are a little bit too long for my liking, require a little bit too much work for me to be able to put in, so I was thinking I'd just short it to top 5 videos, and hopefully those are adequate enough. I don't know, you be the judge. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.